To embark on a life of conscious design is to first acknowledge the profound gravitational force exerted by the people closest to you. We are not simply individuals moving through the world. We are composite reflections of our most persistent associations. The average human lifespan allows for a limited number of truly deep relationships, and the decision of who occupies that precious, finite space is arguably the single most critical strategic choice one can make. This is not about building a contact list. It is about architectural design, the deliberate, thoughtful construction of your personal support and accountability structure. The imperative of active selection. For too long, the formation of friendships has been left to happenstance. The luck of the draw from a shared workplace, a geographic proximity, or a common hobby. But allowing chance to dictate your core influences is a profound abdication of personal power. The goal is to shift from a passive recipient of connections to an active selector of high-caliber allies. This transition requires a mental reframing. We must stop viewing friendships as mere emotional comfort and begin viewing them as powerful vectors of influence. Every person in your inner circle is an input into your system, affecting your thought patterns, your spending habits, your emotional resilience, and your tolerance for risk. If your goals are ambitious, your relationships must be equally ambitious in their quality. The concept of the inner circle demands strict boundaries. We are discussing the non-negotiable few, the individuals you rely on for honest feedback, whose judgment you trust implicitly, and whose company truly elevates your state. For most, this number should be rigorously maintained below 10. A larger group dilutes focus and often sacrifices depth for breadth. The moment the circle becomes too wide, it ceases to be a fortress and merely becomes a crowded common ground. Part 2. The 3 pillars of a high-quality alliance. When evaluating a candidate for this privileged position, we must move beyond simple affinity and affection. We must employ criteria rooted in character and contribution. Pillar 1. Unwavering integrity and principle, the moral foundation. The first pillar is character, expressed as uncompromising integrity. Integrity is not merely truthfulness, it is the whole and undivided state of the person. When seeking friends, ask yourself, does this person possess moral courage? Will they speak the difficult truth to me, even if it risks temporary discomfort? And crucially, how do they treat people who can do nothing for them? The service staff, the junior colleague, the person on the street. A friend who compromises their own principles under duress will, eventually, compromise their loyalty to you. Look for consistency between their private actions and their public pronouncements. A relationship built on shared superficiality will collapse when the true burdens of life, grief, failure, betrayal are brought to bear. True friendship is not a fair-weather arrangement. It is an armored relationship tested by storms. This pillar ensures that the emotional foundation of your life is built on solid, trustworthy ground. Pillar 2. Growth orientation and constructive challenge, the catalytic effect. The second pillar dictates that your inner circle must contain catalysts, not merely companions. A catalyst is an agent that speeds up a reaction without being consumed by it. These are the friends who possess a relentless commitment to their own mastery and, by extension, challenge you toward yours. They do not enable your comfort zones. They provoke you out of them. They ask the hard questions. Why are you tolerating that? Is that decision aligned with your 5-year plan? What is the highest level work you could be doing right now? If your friendships are defined solely by reminiscing about the past or indulging in shared consumption, you risk collective stagnation. Your ideal companions should be future-focused, providing a constant ambient pressure to evolve. Their success should not breed envy, but inspiration. They become a living benchmark, demonstrating what is possible in raising the standard for your own endeavors. A relationship that does not challenge you to grow is a relationship that is demanding you shrink. Pillar 3. The capacity for radical empathy and discretion, the safe harbor. The final pillar addresses the emotional sanctuary required within the inner circle. True intimacy requires the freedom to be vulnerable without fear of exploitation or judgment. Radical empathy means they understand your position even if they disagree with your course of action. They listen with the intent to understand, not merely to reply. This is the source of the crucial safe harbor. It means you can bring your failures, your shame, and your deepest anxieties to them, knowing that your vulnerability will be protected with absolute discretion. A friend who gossips about others will eventually gossip about you. A failure of discretion is a failure of trust, and trust is the oxygen of the inner circle. Seek those whose reputation for discretion is unimpeachable, who treat your sensitive information as if it were their own most guarded secret. This capacity ensures that the inner circle remains a place of rejuvenation, not a source of new anxiety. Part 3. The scrutiny of low vibration. Now we turn to the crucial task of identifying and managing influences that threaten to pull your quality of life downwards. This is where the concept of the low vibration person or the energy sink becomes vital. These individuals are characterized by 4 behavioral patterns that poison the well of association. 1. Chronic victimhood. They see life as something that happens to them, never something they actively participate in creating. Every setback is external, every challenge is someone else's fault. This mindset is highly contagious. It shifts the conversational focus from solutions and empowerment to complaints and helplessness. 2. Constant drama and chaos. Their lives are a perpetual soap opera driven by self-created crises. They demand immediate, high-intensity emotional energy from you to help them manage their self-inflicted wounds. They treat your inner circle not as a partnership, but as a perpetual emergency hotline. This is energy theft disguised as friendship. 3. The cynic and the critic. They greet every new idea or aspiration with skepticism and a litany of reasons why it will fail. They are terrified of ambition because it exposes the limits of their own courage. Their role is to keep you small and safe, meaning small and stagnant. The cynic contributes nothing but an infectious paralysis. 4. Emotional debt and imbalance. The relationship exists primarily in one direction, with one party consistently giving and the other consistently taking. This is not the occasional support needed during a crisis, but a sustained, structural imbalance where you are primarily serving as their emotional anchor, therapist, or ATM. The most dangerous pitfall is believing your own strength is sufficient to neutralize their negativity. Using the analogy of the drowning person, in their panic, their instinct is to climb upon you to stay afloat, pushing you down in the process. Your mission is not to be a lifeboat for those who refuse to learn to swim. Your mission is to continue navigating your own voyage. The most compassionate thing you can often do is model self-respect by creating necessary distance. Part 4. The strategy of boundary enforcement. The active selection process is meaningless without the corresponding skill of boundary enforcement. Boundaries are the operational rules of your relationships. They define what is acceptable and what is not. Establishing non-negotiable time. Be crystal clear about the energy you are willing to give. If a friend habitually calls you late at night for non-emergencies or demands your immediate attention during working hours, you must calmly and consistently reinforce the rule. I love catching up, but I am unavailable for calls after 9 o'clock. Or, I can talk about this on Friday, but my mornings are reserved for deep work. Consistency is the key. A boundary violated once is a boundary erased. Managing emotional labor. Learn to distinguish between empathy and codependency. You can offer a listening ear without assuming the responsibility for fixing their life. When a friend begins spiraling into a familiar cycle of self-pity, interrupt gently but firmly. Redirect the conversation. I hear that this is difficult. What is the single most constructive step you can take right now? This shifts the focus from passive complaint back to active agency. The art of gradual distancing. Not all separations must be dramatic confrontations. Often, the kindest and most mature way to exit a relationship that no longer serves your path is through the quiet process of gradual distancing. You stop initiating contact. You become busy for invitations that violate your time budget. The conversation slowly, naturally, becomes less intimate and more surface level. This allows the relationship to find its natural, appropriate orbit, moving from the inner circle to the outer network, or perhaps fading respectfully into memory. Part 5. The responsibility to be a high-quality friend. Finally, this deep dive must turn inward. The expectation of high-quality friends carries the inherent responsibility of being a high-quality friend in return. The best way to attract catalytic, principled, and empathetic people is to embody those traits yourself. Offer sincere accountability. Be the person who celebrates without envy and criticizes with love. When your friend is drifting, be the anchor that reminds them of their own stated values. Accountability is not judgment. It is the ultimate expression of respect for their potential. Invest in reciprocity. Ensure the emotional traffic flows both ways. Do you listen as intensely as you speak? Do you remember the small details of their life? Are you present during their quiet difficulties, not just their public triumphs? Friendship is an exchange of value, and the ledger of emotional investment must be reasonably balanced over time. Maintain your own high vibration. The single greatest gift you can offer your friends is your own stability, drive, and happiness. Your life should be an encouraging example of what a commitment to self-mastery looks like. Your light helps illuminate the path for them, just as theirs does for you. To select your inner circle is to design your future. It is a continuous, reflective process that demands courage, discernment, and self-respect. Choose the builders, the challengers, and the truth-tellers. For in the end, the people who surround you are the living blueprint of the life you are building. Choose wisely, for the architecture of your destiny depends on it.